Hi class, my name is Samantha Messer and this week's discussion pertains to stock and interest, and I will be answering the questions based off of our Baker and Baker textbook. All right, so we first want to start with the question, what is the difference between privately held companies and public companies? And there's a little bit of a difference, mostly dealing with their stocks and how they handle those. So privately held companies, it's a small company with private stock that is not traded at all. And this stock is also termed as closely held. A public company has publicly owned stock, usually dealing with much larger companies, and it may also be listed on several of the stock exchanges. This stock, in contrast, may be traded, and smaller public companies may not be listed on stock exchanges and is instead traded in over-the-counter, and this is what we know as the NASDAQ, the NASDAQ. Our next question, what is the government agency that oversees the stock market in the US, and what is the government agency concerned with? The government agency that oversees the stock market is the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, also known as the SEC. They're predominantly concerned with promoting the disclosure of important market-related information, maintaining fair dealing, and protecting against fraud. And why is the work of this government agency important? This work is important because if there wasn't anything in place to protect the investors, maintain fair and orderly, efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation, then it would be perhaps constant chaos. And money can do strange things to people, and there has to become some type of regulation and system in place to keep it organized. So next we want to talk about what interest expenses and what loan costs are. So interest expense is computed on the principal balance remaining after the principal portion of the previous payment that has been subtracted. For example, if you have a 10% interest rate on $60,000, your payment in interest for month one would be $600. The remaining principal balance is $58,607.14. So for month two, 10% would come out to $586.07, and that is your interest for month two. And so on, and then it just goes on depending on, and a lot of times it can be set up over a 3-year period. Every deal is a little bit different. And loan costs cover expenses necessary to close the loan. So loan closing costs usually include some expenses that would be reported on the current year and some other expenses that should be spread over several years. So why are decisions concerning how to obtain capital an important part of financial management decision making? Decisions concerning how to obtain capital are important when it comes to financial decision making because new capital often has to be rationed with the organization. Repaying long-term obligations can impact the facility's cash flow for years to come, and decisions to undertake large debt loads should be made lightly. Therefore, most institutions have put formal approval processes in place that generally begins with the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and his or her staff, and progresses upward all the way toward the Board of Trustees approval, and then depending on the amount of debt processed or proposed, And then lastly, if you were a financial manager of a healthcare organization, what factors would you consider before obtaining any form of capital? I think it's important to consider just the factors that we listed previously in answering some of those other questions. Initially, before obtaining any form of capital, a potential risk could be long-term debt amounts, like we were discussing just now, and how this would affect the cash flow in the organization directly, and how the new capital would be rationed within the organization. Just in general, your potential risks you would want to just be aware of for the company and how big your organization is and how much debt you are planning to take on. All right, looking forward to the discussions. Thank you.